Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Thank you for joining me today. We have a very important topic. If you'd like to eliminate your fears and frustrations, then today I'm going to show you how to use the science of DISC to understand your DISC style and start to accelerate towards your success. So thanks for joining me. If we're meeting for the first time, my name is Daniel Tolson, and you're going to get a lot of value from tonight's training. So make sure you take a lot of notes as we go through. So what we're going to do today, we're going to learn how to eliminate your fears. We're going to learn how to eliminate your frustrations. And we're going to use the science of DISC. Once you understand your DISC style, then you can start to accelerate towards success. Now, one of the best parts about tonight's training is that you don't have to read another boring self-help book. I have read hundreds of boring self-help books over the years, and at the end I got a lot of ideas, but there was just nothing practical in there. There was nothing that I could take and implement into my business or into my career immediately. But today's training is practical ideas. Expect that you can take these ideas and insights and you can implement them into your business today. And that's what we're here for. So today, if you've ever avoided action, if you've caught yourself procrastinating or putting things off because you're afraid to fail, then today's training is for you. If you've ever been stuck in a comfort zone that you can't get out of, today's training is for you. If you want to feel absolutely invincible as you move towards your goals, then today's training's for you. In today's session, you are going to understand the science of DISC. You're going to learn how to pinpoint what is holding you back. And I'm also going to show you 4 case studies so you can understand the mental and emotional blockages of other people and where they get stuck. And once you start to see what's inside of these case studies, you'll also recognize some of these characteristics in yourself. And so once you see these characteristics in yourself, you can take these ideas and you can start to apply them into your life. So say hello, let me know where you're joining me from in the comments box below. And if you enjoy this content, make sure you give it a thumbs up and even share it with somebody who can value from it the most. Now, I want you to remember one thing. One thing that you need to remember is that one new idea at the right time can change your life. And Kadri, thanks for joining me today. We're going to cover some case studies here. These might even look familiar to you. So make sure you stick around to the very end because I think the last one that I'm going to share with you today, Kadri, is going to have a big impact on you. So remember, one new idea at the right time is enough to change your life. So my name is Daniel Tolson. Over the past decade, I have worked with more than 9,500 business people around the world. I consult to multi-million-dollar and billion-dollar businesses. And in the past 3 years alone, I have looked into more than 5,500 case studies into emotional intelligence. And I'm going to bring some of these ideas to today's training. If you've had the opportunity to train with me, you know my trainings are dynamic and they're very practical. And I've traveled around the world working with business people like you, sharing these ideas. I also consult celebrities on national television and speak to groups of 500 and 1,000 people at a time all around the world. And I want you to remember that one idea is enough to change your life. You don't need 100 ideas. You don't need 50 ideas. You don't need 10 ideas. You just need one new idea. And one new idea can get the ball rolling. And remember, Bruce Lee once said, "I'm not afraid of a man of 10,000 kicks. I'm afraid of a man who's practiced one kick 10,000 times." And if you take just one good idea and apply it day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, and you master that, you can be more powerful than anybody else in your field. So remember, one idea is enough to change your life. My goals for today. I want to give you practical ideas. I want to give you practical ideas so you can stop second guessing yourself. One of the things after working with more than 9,500 people around the world is I've realized that a lot of people second guess themselves. They read the books, They go to all the courses. They've been to university, they've been to college, they've been working in their field for 20 and 30 years, and they've got all the knowledge, but they keep second-guessing themselves. They acquire skills, they fine-tune their skills, but when it comes time to go out into the field and put themselves out in front of other people, they start to doubt themselves. They start to compare themselves to other people. And when it all boils down to one thing, is that they keep second-guessing themselves. They're getting in their own way. And a lot of people say they are their biggest obstacle to success. A lot of people say, I'm just keep getting in my own way. I'm the biggest problem here. So what I want for you today is I want to give you practical ideas to stop second-guessing yourself. And once you stop second-guessing yourself, you can start to succeed really, really quickly. So thank you for joining me. Today's intention is to eliminate your fears and frustrations. And to do that, we're going to use the science of DISC. And we're going to learn how to leverage your DISC and accelerate towards success. So if you're just joining me on the training now, say hello, go over to the chat box, type in a hello, let me know where you're coming from. And if you're enjoying the content, press like and also share it with your friends, because maybe just one idea tonight could change their life. Kadri, thank you for joining me. Sheila, thank you for joining me. Lena, a pleasure to have you here. And Daniel Spear, good to see you there also. So, whenever we begin any personal or professional development, we have to upgrade our operating system. What we know today has got us here, but what we know today is not enough to get us to the next level of success. So we have to constantly upgrade our operating system. So in life, everything starts with a stimulus. This is an external event or an internal thought. Following the stimulus, what impacts this stimulus are our personality traits. And when we explore DISC, what we're really exploring is we're exploring our personality traits. And we're going to go into depth in this today. And so the more that you understand your personality traits, the greater you can understand the effect of these stimuluses. In addition to the personality traits, we also take into consideration the environment at any given time. What you may find, you may be more sensitive to loss today in 2021 than loss in 2019. Why? Because we're going through this thing right now called COVID-19. COVID-19 has changed our environment. Maybe when you were working in the office last year, fear of rejection wasn't a problem for you. But perhaps now that you're trying to navigate this online world and you're finding that rejection online is beginning to hurt. This is different because of what's happening is that you're in a different environment. Once we have a stimulus, these stimuluses, these external events, these internal thoughts, they trigger emotions. And what you'll probably notice here, it doesn't say thinking, it says stimulus and then emotions. And this is where the notion of emotional intelligence comes in. So as we go through this training today, you're also learning more about emotional intelligence. So there's a stimulus, something that happens outside of you, or maybe it's an internal thought, which triggers an emotion. And after the emotion begins the cognition. It begins the thinking process. And every day you have about plus minus 90,000 thoughts going through your mind every day. It's like this stream of consciousness that just keeps flowing through, and there's more than 90,000 thoughts per day. And it's the emotions that triggers off the cognition. And we have to be able to understand, what are these emotions and how are they impacting and influencing my thinking. After the cognition, then we take action. So there's a stimulus. It's an external event, or it's a thought that you have inside of your mind. Then it triggers an emotion. Following the emotion, we have the cognition, which is the thinking process. And it's the thinking that leads to the action. However, what can happen is we can have some really emotionally charged situations, and we can have what's called an emotional hijack. It's when the emotions become so strong that we start to go into the fight, flight, or freeze response. If we have an emotional hijacking, we go straight from emotion, we bypass cognition, and we end up taking action before we think. And what you've got to remember is that all action taken before thinking leads to failure. And so we're going to be really mindful of these emotional hijacking situations. If that fear kicks in, that fear of being taken advantage of, that fear of rejection, that fear of losing your stability, that fear of making a mistake, that can be triggered. And what happens, because it's so powerful, you have an emotional hijack and the brain goes hot and you can't think and you start to act. The problem with that is that all action preceded by thinking leads to failure. And so with emotional intelligence, our intention is to get control of the emotion so we can think clearly and then take the right action, because it's only the right action that takes you towards your goal. All of the action preceded by thinking takes you away from your goal. Once you move away from your goal, it's harder to get back on track. So this is the intention of learning emotional intelligence, but it's also the intention of upgrading our operating system. So Anthony, thank you for joining me here today. Make sure you stick around, Anthony, because you're going to learn a lot. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're enjoying the content, leave a message in the comments box below, press like, and even share this with a friend. So why do we explore DISC? There's 3 core reasons why we explore DISC. DISC is a model to help us understand some of the ways people are different. My DISC style is different to your DISC style. My DISC style is very different to my wife's DISC style. My DISC style is very different to my daughter Nikita's DISC style. And what we have to be able to do in emotional intelligence is we have to, first of all, understand and appreciate our own DISC style. I've seen it before. People have DISC envy. They go, wow, you've got a really high D style. I want that. No. What you've got to learn to do is you've got to learn to optimize your DISC style, because one DISC style does not make you any smarter, more successful than any other. All DISC styles are effective once you learn to apply them appropriately in each environment. The second reason that we learn DISC is because DISC is a tool that can help you to locate and highlight our strengths. One of the things that most people are aware of, they're aware of the knowledge that they have. They're aware of their skill sets, but they're not aware of their behavioral characteristics. And what DISC does, it brings up your behavioral characteristics, your strengths to the surface. One of the things that I know about myself from learning about DISC is I'm very aggressive when it comes to solving problems and challenges. If there's a problem and a challenge, I jump on it immediately. But I'm also very competitive. Now, for those of you who know, I was an Australian champion athlete, and that competitive nature is part of my DISC style. So I used it in sport, and now I use it in business. And I know this is a strength. And as a consultant, I also bring this strength to other businesses. So when they say, what are your strengths? I say I'm very aggressive when it comes to solving problems, and I'm also very competitive. When you hire me to work with your business, I'm competitive. I want to win. There's no second place when you work with me. There's only first place, and we've got to win. And so when they discover this strength within me, they go, wow, that's really cool. We want you on our team. So you've got to understand your DISC style also. Thirdly, DISC can also help us to recognize and manage our potential limitations. All of us have limitations. All of us have blind spots. And it's not what we know that hurts us. It's what we don't know that hurts us. And so DISC brings up the invisible. It makes the invisible visible. And you can start to identify your limitations. And as we go through the case studies today for my 4 clients, I'll be having a look at what helps you achieve your goals. And I'm also going to have a look at what holds you back. Because if you figure out that one blind spot, you get that new idea, then you can course correct and you're back on track and you succeed faster. So DISC is a beautiful tool to help us do that. There's a couple of things that DISC is not. The DISC language does not measure values, intelligence, skills and experience. It does not measure education and training. It does not measure ability or willingness to change. DISC is a language that measures behavior and emotion. The DISC language is an observable language. It's a universal language. So what universal means is, if you're joining me from Australia, DISC is a language that you can observe in Australia. If you're joining me here in Taiwan, you can observe this. It's silent, but you can observe it here in Taiwan. If you're joining me from Malaysia, you can observe it in Malaysia. If you're in the Middle East and you speak Arabic, you can observe this behavior. If you're in Pakistan and you speak Urdu, you can observe this behavior. So it's a universal language that can be observed in all cultures. It's also a neutral language. It's not good or bad, right or wrong. It's a neutral language. And it's also a silent language. It's also unspoken. So what we do with DISC is we take the invisible or the silent and we bring it up to the surface and we make it visible. So there's 4 key DISC styles. The first one is dominance. And this is how you respond to problems and challenges. We also have the influence style. This is how you respond to people and contacts. We also have the steadiness style, and this is how you respond to the pace and the consistency in the environment. And we also have the compliance style, and this is how you respond to procedures and constraints. So this has been a big picture overview so far, and now we're going to start to get right down into the details. And you should be able to learn a lot about yourself in the time that we spend together today. So Daniel Spear, thank you for liking this training, and also I appreciate that for sharing that with your network. Greatly appreciated. Thank you so much. So take a look at the screen. What words describe you? When I read this list of words out, I just want you to acknowledge the words that describe you. Ambitious, decisive, competitive, venturesome, results-oriented, aggressive, pioneering, driving, demanding, or direct. Which of these words describe you? I want you to think about it. And I want you to type up in the chat box, which of these words describe you? I'd love to know which of these words best describe you. So as you're typing up the words that best describe you, I'm going to point out a couple of words that best describe me. The first one is competitive. For me, I was an Australian champion athlete. I've competed at the extreme games in the sport of wakeboarding. I was a 3-time state champion athlete, and I am very competitive. I love to compete. I love to go up against tough competitors. I don't mind failing or losing because I can learn so much from it. Another word that describes me is very aggressive. I just like to get down to business. I want to cut to the chase. I want to get through all the fluff, and I just want to get to the heart of the matter. And I'll push till I get there. So these are 2 words that describe me: competitive and aggressive. Kadri, pioneering, excellent. Daniel Spear, decisive, results-oriented, direct. Sheila, venturesome, beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Well, let's take a detailed look into the D style. Remember, D stands for dominance, and this is how we approach problems and challenges. When the D style is active, it's looking for a result. So when you're interacting with a D style person, what they want from the interaction with you is they want a result. The emotion that comes along with the D style is anger. And a very high D personality has a very short fuse. And the fear for the D style is a fear of being taken advantage of. So what does this mean? What it means is that when we're increasing and improving our emotional intelligence, we have to learn to manage the emotion of anger more effectively. And we also have to overcome that fear of being taken advantage of. And these are two things that can really hold us back if the D style is very prominent in our personal characteristics. What about these words? I want you to take a look at the words on the screen. And I want you to tell me in the comments box below, which of these words best describe you? Sociable, inspiring, enthusiastic, trusting, magnetic, persuasive, demonstrative, warm, convincing, optimistic. Which of these words best describe you? I want you to head over to the chat box now, and I want you to type in the words that best describe you. Well, two words that describe me are persuasive and convincing. I started a career in real estate at age 19, and I loved to persuade. I loved to help people achieve their goals by finding the right house and negotiating and bringing a deal together. I loved to go out to a home seller and show them how my office was the best in the area and how we could get them the highest price at the lowest cost in the fastest time. And I loved it. And convincing. Today I travel the world convincing people to overcome their mental and emotional blockages, convince them that success is achievable, success is possible for them. And so the words persuasive and convincing really describe me. So Sheila, demonstrative, warm, optimistic, sociable, excellent. Thank you for sharing. Daniel Spear, enthusiastic, trusting, optimistic. Excellent. So let's take another deeper dive into the I style. I stands for influence. And this is how we approach people and contact. What we want from an interaction is we want recognition. And we really desire feedback. The emotion that comes along with the I style is optimism. The high I style is very, very optimistic, where the low I style is the opposite, and they're more pessimistic. The fear that comes along with the I style is social rejection and ridicule. So, two of the things that the I style has to learn is to overcome the fears of rejection, and they also have to manage the emotion of optimism, because sometimes they're very optimistic, but they can become drunk on optimism. What about these words? If you're joining me now, great to see you there. Say hello in the chat box. Let me know where you're joining me from, and if you're liking this training, press like, and please also share this with your network. So what about these words? Do these words describe you? Patient, non-demonstrative, resistant to change, deliberate, stable, predictable, passive, consistent, relaxed, or steady. Which of these words best describe you? Well, for me, none of these words describe me. Patient, I'm impatient. Non-demonstrative, no, I demonstrate. Resistant to change, I love change. So when I look at this list of words, nothing really describes me here. But perhaps some of these words describe you. Now, my son, Caesar, he's a very high S-style personality, and he's consistent. He wakes up at 6 a.m. in the morning, and he wants to have his bottle. At 4 o'clock in the afternoon, he eats his fruit. At 5 o'clock, he has to have dinner. At 6 o'clock, he has to go for a walk. At 7 o'clock, he's got to come home and have a shower. At 8 o'clock, he's got to go to bed, and he will tell you on the dot, it's 8 o'clock, it's time to go to sleep. So he's very predictable and very consistent. What about you? Do any of these words describe you? Now, let's take a deeper dive onto the S style. S stands for steadiness. And this is how we explore the pace and the consistency in the environment. In an interaction, the S style wants a relationship. The emotion for the S style is actually non-emotion. They don't demonstrate the emotion. It doesn't mean that they don't feel it. They tend not to demonstrate it. And they're more what we would call poker-faced. And then the fear. The fear for the S style is losing their stability. And so as you develop yourself, if you're the S style person, what you've got to learn to do is you've got to learn to demonstrate the emotion. And you've also got to overcome that fear of losing your stability. What about these words? What words here describe you? And I want you to chat. I want you to type these words up. If you see a word here on the screen that best describes you, I want you to type it up in the chat box. What is it? Are you accurate, careful, neat, cautious, diplomatic, systematic, tactful, exacting, balanced judgment, conventional? Which of these words describe you? And what I want you to do, I want you to head over to the chat box and I want you to type in the word that best describes you. Now, as I look down this list, I can tell you the words that don't describe me. Accurate, that doesn't describe me. Careful, it doesn't describe me. Cautious does not describe me. Diplomatic doesn't describe me. Systematic does not describe me. Exacting does not describe me. But perhaps some of these words best describe you. And remember, DISC is a neutral language. It's not good or bad, right or wrong. So as you're looking at the screen now, which of these words best describe you? Sheila, thank you for sharing. Cautious, tactful, diplomatic, excellent, accurate, careful, cautious. See, all of us have a different characteristic, a different style, and we've got to start to appreciate our own style so we can start to utilize it to our advantage. So let's take a deeper dive on the C style. C stands for compliance. This is how we explore procedures and constraint. In an interaction, the C style wants to be right. They don't want to be wrong. They want to be right. They want to be correct. The C style also has a lot of fear. The fear of making a mistake. The fear of getting it wrong. And what they have to learn to do, especially in work, they have to learn how to overcome the fear of receiving criticism of their work. This is one of the greatest fears of the C style, is to get something wrong. And so if you're the C style, you have to develop your behavioral approach. You have to improve your emotional intelligence around fear. A lot of the C styles, they fear failure. They also fear making mistakes. They fear getting it wrong. And they've got to constantly manage these fears. And remember, the greatest fear for the C style is somebody criticizing their work. So this is a basic insight into the 4 DISC styles. Remember, DISC. You've got your dominant style, you have your influence style, you have your steadiness style, and you also have your compliance style. And the better you know your DISC style, the more effective you can be. What we see is that people who are really aware of their DISC style are very good at customer service. They know their strengths, they know their weaknesses. People who are aware of their DISC style are very good communicators. Why is that? Because they know their style. It's like me, I'm very aggressive. And what I have to do is I have to temper that aggression. I really have to do it, but I'm aware of it. Once you become aware, then you can regulate. So remember what I said before. It's not what you know that hurts you. It's what you don't know. So in the past, and I didn't realize I was being aggressive, that hurt me. But now it comes back into my conscious awareness through DISC. I can see that I'm aggressive when it comes to solving problems and challenges. And now I can regulate that so it's no longer a problem. And you can do the same thing too. So now, this is really exciting. What we're going to do now, we're going to have a look at 4 case studies. We're going to explore 4 DISC case studies. So my clients have already taken their DISC assessments. They're most probably online tonight. They're going to remain anonymous. I won't say who they are. They'll know who they are when they see their DISC style up on the screen for the world to see. And so when you take your DISC assessment, you answer a series of questions, and then when we get your DISC report, it shows us your DISC style. Remember, your style is not good or bad, right or wrong. My intention for you today is to identify what's helping you. It's the ability today to have a look at your DISC style and have a look what's in your DISC style that can help you achieve your goals faster and easier. The other thing that we want to do today is we want to have a look at your DISC style and have a look if there's anything that could hurt you or be harmful or hold you back. Remember, we all have blind spots. They're called scotomas. These are little blind spots and they're out of our awareness. And so my intention today is to bring to the surface both the things that can help you achieve your goals faster, but also to point out to you those things that could be holding you back right now. And once you get conscious awareness of it, once you have awareness of it, now you can work to regulate it more effectively. So let's begin. We're going to begin now with case study number 1. Hey, let me just check in. By the way, are you enjoying this so far? Are you learning a lot? I'd love to hear from you. If you want to type up in the chat box, what's the number 1 thing that you've learned so far? Head over to the chat box now and let me know what you've learned so far. I'd be really fascinated to hear what you've learned. Okay, here we go. DISC profile number 1. What I'm doing here is I'm having a look at my client's DISC style. And you can see on the left-hand side, it says adapted style graph 1. And on the right-hand side, it says natural style graph 2. And these DISC profiles represent the person when they're relaxed, when there's no stress. That's the style on the right-hand side. Under moderate stress, tension, and fatigue, our DISC style can actually change. So when you're stressed, when you're tired, when you're overworked, what happens is your DISC style can change. Now, some people's change a little bit. Some people's change a lot. And what you've got to know today is you've got to be able to pinpoint these subtle changes, because you might not know that you're stressed. You might not know that you're fatigued, and you could be operating with your adapted DISC style. And what can happen is you can produce inconsistent results. The other thing, you may have taken a job, but it doesn't suit you, and now you've got to adapt. When we adapt and we use our DISC style or our graph style 1, it can use a lot of energy. So, for example, for me, I will never be a pilot. I don't want to be a pilot because there's so many systems and processes and standard operating procedures. There's so much compliance, ticking this box, checking that box. That's not me. And if I had to adapt and do that job, I would burn out because my natural style is very different to what a pilot needs. Could I fly aircraft? If somebody put a gun to my head, I could probably do it. But it'd cause me a lot of stress because I'd have to adapt. I'd have to become somebody that I'm really not. Maybe I can do it once, but I don't know for how long. And so when we look at these 2 graphs here, on the right-hand side is our natural style. Remember, that's when we're relaxed. That's when our batteries are fully charged. But on the left-hand side, we have our adapted style. And this is when there's moderate stress, tension, or fatigue. So we're going to break these down one by one, and I'm going to highlight a couple of key areas and the things that I'm looking for right now. So when I start to look at my clients' DISC graphs, I'm having a look for what's high. I'm having a look for this red, this yellow, this green, or this blue bar that's really high. But as I have a look at this DISC profile, there's nothing that's really high here. I'm also looking for what's really low. There's no red bar, yellow bar, green bar, or blue bar that's significantly low. So I don't see any major variances here. But what I do see on the right-hand side is I see 3 of those bars, the yellow, the green, and the blue, above the middle line, and 1, which is the red one, below the line. So I see a 3 above, 1 below pattern. The other thing that I notice here, and I'm going to highlight this on the screen for you, is that I can see here that the D style, the S style, and the C styles are actually less active in the client's natural style. However, the I style, which is the yellow bar, is actually more active in their natural style than their adapted style. So I'm just starting to have a look at what's taking place in this person's report. Now, what I can also notice here is that the client's D style is pretty much the same on the right-hand side as it is on the left-hand side. And remember, the D style is how we explore problems and challenges. The client's natural style, the score for the D style is 45. And so day to day, when the battery's fully charged, when she's relaxed, when she's in an area or a comfort zone, she will approach problems and challenges in a way that is hesitant. When this person approaches problems and challenges, they'll be very cooperative, but they'll also be very conservative when it comes to solving problems and challenges. And so what I'm doing at the moment is I'm just describing some of the characteristics of this D style, this red bar. Remember, the D style is about how we explore problems and challenges. And how my client's exploring problems and challenges at the moment is with hesitation. They're being very cooperative in solving problems and challenges, but also very conservative. So what I want to know here for my client is this producing results? The way that you're approaching problems and challenges, is it producing results? If you're approaching problems and challenges with hesitation, is it working for you? By attempting to solve problems and challenges cooperatively, is it producing the desired result? Approaching problems and challenges in a very conservative way, is it getting you what you want? And so if I was talking to my client right now, this is what I'd want to explore. And if it wasn't working for them, then we'd want to learn and create some strategies on how to approach problems and challenges more effectively. So the question is, do you find that your natural, conservative approach to solving problems and challenges is fairly close to what is required of you in work? Is this getting results or not? And this is what I'm really looking at right now as I analyze this disc style. So as we go through the disc, we're looking at these variations. And specifically here, we're just looking at that D style. Remember, the D style is about exploring problems and challenges. And when I explore problems and challenges, as I mentioned before, I can be very aggressive when solving problems and challenges. It's not always effective, by the way. I'm not saying that's the best way to do it. It's how I do it. It's effective sometimes, but not all the time. And so what I'm asking my client here today is this natural way, your conservative approach to solving problems and challenges, is this fairly close of what your work requires? Is it getting results or not? So you know who you are, you know who I'm talking to, you're watching right now, I can see you there. Is it working for you? If it's not, then we're going to learn to adapt, adjust, and respond. So very fascinating. So I'm just having a look at this D style here. Are you enjoying this so far, ladies and gentlemen? If you're enjoying it, give me a thumbs up, give me a little comment in the comments box below. Okay, case study number 2. So this is the second case study. I'm going to walk you through this. And what I'm looking for here is I'm looking for what's high. So what I can see here, the client's I style and S style is very active. It's up around that 70 points. It's about 20 points above the midline. I also notice here when I'm looking at the client's disc style is that the D style is significantly lower. And so I'm looking here in comparison to the I style and the S style, the D style is significantly lower. And I want to explore this a little bit more with my clients. So what I can see here is we've got a 2-pattern disc style. So we have the yellow and the green bars, the I and the S above the power line. And then we have the D style, which is the red, and the C style, the blue bar below. I also notice that there's a subtle change here. If you're having a look at the graph on the right-hand side, graph number 2, natural style, we can see that the I style, the score is 72, and the S style, the green one, is 68. But then if we look over to the left-hand side and we have a look at the adapted style, there's a subtle shift. And so on the left-hand side, the green bar, the S, goes up to 72, and the I style drops down to 68. Now, it's not a major variation, but there's something happening here. My client feels that there needs to be some adjustments in the workplace in comparison to his natural style. So let me have a look at this. How would I describe these scores? I'd describe that this I in the S style is relatively high. And the key word that I would use here for the client's I style is sociable and warm. So when I look at that I style, the point score is 72, and the descriptor for this is sociable and warm. So imagine this. Imagine if you met this person. When they met you, when they were exploring people and contacts, this person is going to be very sociable. They're going to be very warm. And so when they're out there face-to-face with customers, when they're face-to-face with family members, when they're face-to-face with friends, this person's going to be very sociable and very warm. However, there's a slight variation here. And so what I can see here is in the workplace, they're still very sociable and warm. However, they tend to focus more on relationships. So you can see the I style goes down, which is exploring people and contacts, but the S style goes up. The S style is about exploring the pace and the consistency in the environment. In the workplace, we can see this subtle shift here. So it tells me this person's focusing more on relationships than on the people and contact. As that green bar goes up, what it tells me in the workplace, this person will start to show less emotion. They'll be more poker face. And so we've got to now discover, does this work for you or not? So let's think through this. Here's a question. You're watching, I can see you here on the live, and I appreciate you being here. So I want to understand this movement. I want to understand why there's this subtle movement here with people and contacts. So remember, the I style wants recognition. Remember the I style. In any interaction, the I style wants recognition. So my first question is this. Are you getting enough recognition? In the workplace, have you been getting enough recognition? And if not, this is something that we need to explore. Because if it's important and we're not getting it, we have to find a way to get more of it. So that's my question. Are you getting the recognition you desire right now? And if not, let's explore some ways to get that. Because if it's important to you, it's an intrinsic motivation. And if that intrinsic motivation is not being fulfilled, then what can happen is you can feel demotivated. You may even start to detach. So you know who you are. I want you to think about it and then drop me a private message and let me know, are you getting that recognition or not? Okay, case study number 3. Ladies and gentlemen, are you enjoying this so far? I love this stuff. I really, really love this stuff. When I discovered DISC, probably about 5 years ago, I was working with a psychologist in America, and she did a DISC profile on me, and I couldn't believe it. Everything I saw in this DISC profile was accurate. It was me down to a T. And the first thing that happened was I looked at it and I went, oh my gosh, I'm a beast. Well, I liked it, but there was a couple of things that I didn't like in it. But that was okay, because what I did was I took those strengths and those things that I liked and I kept them close to me and I used them more often. The things that I saw and I didn't like, I started to correct them and I made sure they weren't a problem for me anymore. And today, I discovered DISC 5 years ago. Today, I've looked through more than 5,500 of these reports. Imagine that. I've looked through more than 5,500 insights into this emotional intelligence area in the past 5 years. And it fascinates me because every time I see it, it is just so accurate. Now, if you haven't done a disc assessment yet and you want to discover your disc style, just drop me a private message and we'll take care of that for you. I know that you'll love it. Okay. Case study number 3. This person's on the line. Here we go. So as I'm having a look at this one, you can see now we've seen the first 2 case studies. We're up to the 3rd case study, and all of these disc profiles look very different. So when I'm looking at this now, what I can see in the adapted style on the left-hand side, the first thing that I can see that's really, really high is that C style. That C style, remember, that's compliance. This is how we explore policy and constraint. That is really high. That's very, very active, 82. I get excited when I see this stuff. But I can also see that the D style is also very low. So if you have a look on the left-hand side, on the adapter style, the D style is all the way down there to 18 points. And so for me, that really stands out. The C style is very active and the D style is inactive. And the pattern that I see is I see 3 above the line and 1 below the line. That I style on the right-hand side there, it's just slightly over the line. So I'm trying to figure out what this means. Now, as I look deeper into this, Daniel Spear, you'll love disc. Just make sure you send me a message tonight. What you'll notice here is that that D style there is significantly low in comparison to the others. So this is just what's catching my attention here. The next thing that captures my attention is from the right-hand side, that C style, that compliance style goes from 71 to 82. Remember, what was the fear? What was the fear of the C style? The C style has a fear of having their work criticized. The emotion for the C style is fear. And what I can see here is that C style on the right-hand side naturally is 71, but it goes all the way up to 82. So what this tells me immediately, the emotion for this person, they're going to be more sensitive to fear. They're also going to be more sensitive to criticism to their work. So I'm just going to layer this through because this is quite an interesting case study. There's a lot going on here. So when I look here, I can also see a couple of other things. When I'm looking at the client's S style, that's the bar, the green bar, there's a couple of key words. The key words that describe this person's S style is possessive, patient, and passive, the 3 Ps. This S style is described as possessive, patient, and passive. So I'm just taking this into consideration. I'm also taking into consideration the D style. Have a look at the D style here. The D style goes from 28 natural. It drops down 10 points to 18 adapted. There's a lot of movement in here. Automatically, this tells me that this client is in a state of flux. There's a lot happening in this person's world right now. Maybe they're going through a time of rapid change. Maybe they're really confused about who they are, what they should be, do, or have. Maybe they're in a transition from one career to another one. And we can see that there's a lot of movement. It'll be a very stressful time and very confusing for this person right now. And you can start to see that. So, what's the question? The question here that I need to ask my client is this. The first one is there anything in your work environment that is causing you to hesitate and stopping you from acting? So you're watching this, I can see you live here. The question is there anything in your work environment that is causing you to hesitate and stopping you from acting? Because as this C style goes up, as this D style goes down, what happens here is hesitation comes in and there's a lack of activity. So I want you to think about that and I want you to message me and tell me what it is. The other question is, what is it in your work environment that's causing you to become worrisome and careful? What is it? What is it in your environment that's causing you to become worrisome and careful? Because there's a lot going on in this disc style right now. The next question, 3 questions. This is a really important one. Is there anything in your work environment that's causing you to pull back from results and to become more cautious and unsure? This is what we've got to explore. Is there anything in your work environment that is causing you to pull back from results and become more cautious and unsure? And so when we see a lot of movement here from that C style that goes from 71 to 82, as we can see that D style going down from 28 to 18, we can see a couple of things here. We can start to see that he's becoming more submissive, becoming more indecisive. We can see this person's becoming more critical, more fussy, more hard to please, more of a perfectionist. And these are some of the words that describe this person's disc style and these changes that are happening right now. So I want you to think through that. Question number 1. Is there anything in your work environment that is causing you to hesitate and not act? Question 1. Question 2. Is there anything in your work environment that's causing you to become worrisome and careful? Think through that one. Number 3, is there anything in your work environment that is causing you to pull back from results and become more cautious and to become more unsure? So, you know the deal. Write to me. Let me know what it is. Ladies and gentlemen, give me a thumbs up. Are you enjoying this? I'm loving it. When I look into this, it gives me so many insights into people's thinking, their behaviors, how they're acting, what's helping them become successful, but also what's holding them back. And remember, at the start of today's training, I said one new idea is enough to change your life. And you might just figure it out. Okay, yes, I know what's causing me to hesitate. I know what's preventing me from acting. You can solve it and automatically, bang, you go and get your results. I love this stuff. So let's continue. Number 4. Case study number 4. As we have a look at this profile here, again, we can see a very different profile. I can see you're on the line here with me and you've been waiting patiently. Thank you so much for waiting patiently. So as I have a look at this disc style, the first thing that I see that is really high, and I love to see this, is the D style. Look at that D style all the way up there, you beautiful big D. 85 points on the natural style, all the way up there. Excellent. But what I can also see is that the C style on the left-hand side is also 82. Wow. So we can see some big variations here. We can see some big variations from the natural style and the adapted style. And so on the right-hand side, the pattern is 3 above, 1 below. But on the left-hand side, the adapted style, it is 2 above and 2 below. So this person is going to be in a state of flux. This is going to be a very confusing time for this person right now. And we're going to pull this apart so we can better understand it. So we're looking at this C style, and there's a couple of words that describe this C style. And we're looking at the C style over there on the left-hand side because I want to have a look at the adapted style. It goes from 58 all the way up to 82. That's a huge adaptation. And so as I'm looking at the C style on the left-hand side, there's 3 key words that really describe this C style. The first is cautious, followed by careful, followed by worrisome. So when we look at that C style on the left-hand side, 82 points all the way up there, 3 key words: cautious, careful, and worrisome. And these 3 factors are going to be influencing the client right now. So I want you to take this into consideration. There's a lot of movement going on here. We've got the C style going up. We've got the D style going down. We also have the I style going down as well. So let's refresh here. We've got the C style, natural, 58, adapted, 82. We have the D style, the red bar on the right-hand side at 85, and it's adapting and it's going down to 74. It's an 11-point reduction. If we go back to the right-hand side and we look at the I style, the natural I style is 22 and the adapted style is 12. It's a reduction of 10 points. And so we can see huge movement between the natural and the adapted style. So what's happening here? Well, I've got a couple of questions and I want you to think through these questions. First of all, the first question is there anything in your work environment that's causing you to worry about the accuracy of your work and getting things right? Remember, the C style, the emotion is fear. The fear specifically is about criticism to the work. So my question is there anything in your work environment that is causing you to worry about accuracy and getting things right? Secondly, you saw the D style go down. The second question is there anything in your work environment that's causing you to pull back from taking risks? Because remember, the D style is about taking risks. It's about approaching problems and exploring challenges. But we can see that you're pulling back here and it's going down by 11 points. So the question is there anything in your work environment causing you to pull back from taking risks? Third question. Remember, we can also see that I style going down. The I style on the right-hand side goes down from 22 down to 12. So it's a 10-point reduction, a 10-point adaptation. And we want to explore this. So ladies and gentlemen, are you enjoying yourself? Are you finding this fascinating? If you are, say hello. Say hello in the chat box. Let me know what you've most enjoyed so far. And if you really like it, give me a thumbs up and also smash that share button. I'd love to get this information out to more people. So what is happening there? And here's the question. My question is there anything in the work environment that's causing you to pull back from people and contacts and to become more moody and pessimistic? Remember, when we see that low I style, when we see the adaptation, what happens is once that I style starts to get down there around about 10 points, the descriptor here is moody and pessimistic. Moody and pessimistic. So the question is there anything in your work environment that is causing you to pull back from people and contacts and to become moody and pessimistic? And remember, it's not what we know that hurts us. It's what we don't know that hurts us. And perhaps this I style could be tripping you up. It could be that this I style is the thing that's preventing you from achieving your goals, or it could be sabotaging your success. What is it in your work environment that's causing you to pull back from people and contacts while simultaneously becoming moody and pessimistic? So let me go through your three questions again. So let's review the disc style. We can see the adaptation there. The C style is going up from 58 to 82. So the question now is there anything in the work environment that's causing you to worry about accuracy and getting things right? So make sure you remember that question and tell me the answer. Send me a private message tonight. The second one, we can see the D style on the right-hand side, naturally 85. And then there's a variation and an adaptation. It comes from 85, drops by 11 points, all the way down to 74. Now, there's a very important question to explore here. Is there anything in your work environment that's causing you to hold back from taking risks? Remember, it's not what we know that hurts us. It's what we don't know. And perhaps it's that one thing that's tripping you up right now. In addition, as we look over there on the right-hand side, we can see that I style coming in at 22 points, but then it drops down to 12. There's a 10-point adaptation, a 10-point variation. And so there's a very important question, and maybe this is the one. Maybe it's here. Is there anything in your work environment that is causing you to pull back from people and contacts and to become moody and pessimistic? Maybe that's the one thing that you've got to solve. So, ladies and gentlemen, This is DISC. It's a phenomenal model, and we've only scratched the surface tonight. If you've just joined me now, we're just scratching the surface. This is just the very surface level stuff. We can go so much deeper, and we do go so much deeper in one of my programs called the 100X DNA Masterclass. We spend 3 days, and then in the 100X DNA Accelerator, we explore this for an entire year. And what I know is that once you understand your DISC style, you can start to leverage your DISC style for greater performance, to increase your income, but also to become more persuasive and convincing with other people. So I hope you've enjoyed yourself tonight. I love going through this. I sat here for a couple of hours in preparation tonight so I could share this with you, and I love it because it really does change lives. So ladies and gentlemen, today I showed you the science of DISC. I've showed you what is helping and what is hurting your chances of success. You've also learned the fears that need to be eliminated for high performance. And you've also had a look into 4 case studies. And there's 3 things that you need to do right now. 1, you've got to eliminate your mental and emotional blockages. 2, you've got to understand your DISC style. And you've got to be able to pinpoint your blind spots. Remember, it's not what you know that hurts you. It's what you don't know. It's those things out in the peripheral that are holding you back. And once you start to explore DISC, you can start to pinpoint those limitations. You can start to pinpoint those things within you that are holding you back. And once you overcome those, you start to accelerate towards your success. So let me ask you this question, and I want you to type up in the comment box below. Have you ever seen a snake slither back into its old skin? Have you seen that? Have you ever seen a snake slither back into its old skin? This is what normally happens, ladies and gentlemen. People are presented with new information that can change their life, but they're like a snake that tries to slither back into its old skin. Ladies and gentlemen, if you keep doing what you've always done, you'll only get more of what you've already got. And if you've got problems in your life right now, if you're lacking money, if your relationships are bad, if you don't have the career or business success that you desire, if your health and fitness is not where you want it to be, and you keep doing the same things that you've always done, you're only ever going to get more of what you've already got. And remember, a snake will never, ever slither back into its old skin. So you've got a choice to make. You have to act now. You've got to take this knowledge today. You've got to apply it. You've got to change the way that you think and feel. And once you change the way you think and feel, you'll absolutely change the way that you act. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me today. You've worked hard. You've probably got a sweat up there taking notes. And congratulations, because you've learned some of the most important ideas today that have ever been discovered in the field of emotional intelligence. And once you learn to explore your DISC style, once you learn to overcome your fears, fear of being taken advantage of, the fear of rejection, the fear of losing stability, the fear of making a mistake, once you overcome those hurdles, success is virtually guaranteed. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me today. If you've got to the end of the training and you'd like to learn more about DISC, or you'd like to take a DISC assessment, reach out to me, send me a private message today, and we'll take care of that for you. Wherever you are today, have a wonderful day. Thank you for your time.